thought that's how we connected. It was LinkedIn, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I feel like I saw something.
Was.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know if you post on LinkedIn. There may have been like, so maybe there was
posting on LinkedIn.
Okay, maybe there was like a IFS article on LinkedIn, and I'm like, I know Gloria, I see her in the listservs. There's an IFS thing.
Yes,
we probably have stuff to talk about. But like I said earlier, that you are spanning a 50-year career. So, well, first, welcome to the show. Thank you for being on, and I want to just start out by. I always ask people, especially on their first appearance, the story about how you got clarity or about the calling that you're in now. I mean, how old were you when you were sure about, okay, I'm going to invest in this trajectory? Yeah.
That's a good story. It happened for me as a junior in college.
Okay. And where'd you do your undergrad?
I did my undergrad at Indiana State in Indiana.
Okay. So what was clarifying about it? What's the story? Tell us.
Well, the story is I was a math major.
Okay.
And on track to graduate in 3 years with a 4.0. That was my target, my goal. And Calculus 2 came along. They hired a new professor straight out of Harvard. She faced the blackboard, wrote with her right hand, erased with her left, filled the front blackboard, filled the side blackboard, never turned around, and spoke to the class the entire semester.
That itself is remarkable.
It was bizarre. And everyone's lost. We're trying to teach ourselves Calculus 2. We're not good at it. We don't do it well. And I had to head home for Christmas at the end of the semester. So I sent a friend to check her door to see what my grade was. The friend comes running across the parking lot to the bus station, screaming, "You got a D. You got a D." And I went, "Yes, thank you." I passed Calculus 2, and I don't have to take it again. And then I immediately switched my major and my minor. My minor was psychology. And so I just flipped to those guys and never looked back. Just really loved doing psychology from that point forward. And I had taken psychology just as a break from math, right? It was just fun.
Right. A rest from the numbers. Well, unless you're taking statistics or like a psych track that requires, the math part of it.
That's right. Yeah, still some of that happened, as you well know. Graduate school still has math.
Oh, yeah.
Science and research still has math.
You talking about calculus brings up the PTSD of my own. I remember when I did undergrad at Salisbury, and I arrogantly was just like, I can do this. And then calculus kicked my ass, and I was like, I need a tutor. And I probably also like got a D and was just like, oh,
so glad.
Yeah.
So relieved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Not doing it again.
So that's clarified it for you. And then did you go right into grad school, or did you take a break?
Yeah, I went straight into grad school, master's, PhD, just straight through.
Mm-hmm. And you got a PhD in psychology?
Yes.
Right. So you was there any part of you that wanted to have you done research, like, or has it always been clinical?
Well, you had to do research.
Oh, of course,
in order to get your PhD. And then I taught, and so you still had to do research. And when I finished teaching, I finished with research. But working with individuals is a research project.
Oh, yeah.
All of the time.
So what was your research?
So my research was in cognitive development. My research was with very young children, using some of Piaget's ideas. about the development of young children. And it's kind of paid off in the long run, working with people and trying to understand their early histories and
Yeah.
how their early histories kind of play into the present. And it's paid off big time with the book I'm writing about men and boys,
Mm.
and taking a look at how we socialize and limit the emotional development of boys
Oh yeah,
in this culture,
big time.
and really trying to educate fathers on how to go about changing that,
Yeah.
so that their boys have access to the full range of feelings.
Yeah. So that let's come back to that, because I feel like there's plenty of territory to harvest here on that. I have lots of questions about that, but just in terms of your narrative, your autobiography, and so you taught. Where did you teach?
I taught at Indiana University first, and then got a job at Towson,
Go Tigers.
yeah, in Baltimore, and really enjoyed that. And
Mm-hmm.
got tenure, and then decided to go into private practice, and I've loved it ever since.
So what courses were you teaching at Towson?
Mainly developmental
Right.
psychology.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yeah, when did you know you were interested in early childhood? Like what piqued your
Or
interest?
from the very beginning, really. Since my doctorate was on the early development of preschool children,
Mm-hmm.
learning process.
But I guess my question is, what, you have lots to choose from. What do you think it was about that topic area, or even subtopic area, specialization, that you said, because you get lost in dissertation land.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So not knowing it at the time, but upon reflection, I think it's probably connected to my own early childhood,
Mm-hmm.
which was physically very challenging. And so I think there's a direct connection between my later interest in looking at preschool children. And then with my private practice, it just so happened I had a friend that ran a preschool. So when I went into private practice, I got lots of little kids to evaluate, and then got their parents and their fathers to evaluate and do therapy with. And so there's always been kind of that theme of, let's take a look at life developmentally, and how does the early history factor into the present and influence the present.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sort of, I get what you mean about it paying off, and
Mm-hmm.
the richness of early childhood, how much that just impacts
Mm-hmm.
the whole life of the whole human life.
It
But
does.
maybe for viewers and listeners, I'm wondering if you could tease that out a little bit. What about your early work and understanding how children develop and how children take in emotions and learn how they are allowed to or not allowed to express
Mhm.
emotions, beliefs, things like that? Tease that out for us.
Happy to do that. Yeah. Yeah. Because the past jumps into the present all of the time,
Yeah.
whether you know it or not. And, when you can understand and make that connection, when you know the source of the way that you're experiencing yourself or others in the present, then you have a choice to either keep that connection, or change that connection in some way. So it makes a huge difference.
I wonder if a concrete example springs to mind.
Well, I could give you my own example.
Let's go for it. Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the most compelling, right?
Yes, the most compelling is my own example.
Yeah.
I was born with a birth defect. 1946, all right? Hospitals are maternity wards, not a lot of individualized attention or care. And women stayed in labor until they gave birth.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother was in labor for 2 days, right? Totally exhausted. She gives birth, the infant is taken away, right? She's taken away. There's no celebration as there is today, right? And then the next morning, she discovers me, and her immediate reaction is to start screaming and yelling for the doctor. So that's my introduction to her.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is powerful
Absolutely.
and impactful.
Yeah.
So it relates to then my process of being cautious socially, a little shy, right? Holding back and waiting to see what will happen in a social situation before taking any risk.
I'm curious when you learned the story about that.
Oh, towards the end of my mother's life.
Oh, okay. So how old were you when your mom was in the later years?
How old was I? Probably late 40s, early 50s, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, curious minds want to know. So the story was that that's not an expected response, right?
Right.
When the mom comes in to greet her baby. And you also say that's what it was. Other cultures, by the way, meanwhile, are celebrating, and but yeah, in the U.S., I'm assuming that's where you were born, and yeah,
right.
So what was
other mothers are excited to receive their baby, but the first thing my mother would do is to unwrap and take a look.
So what was she screaming at?
She was screaming at the fact that I had an open spine.
What's the name for that condition?
It's called spina bifida.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. My goodness. So yeah, and you're hearing this story in your 40s or maybe 50s, and but yeah, I guess so. Say more about your experience, your own experience, about how your own childhood impacted not just being cautious, but just and obviously as much or as little as you want to share, but say more for us.
Well, so that did put me emotionally in a place where I was much more cautious about building relationships. Always wondered about my own acceptance. Right? Was I good enough? So in a positive way, that would lead to more striving,
right?
More interest in being successful and holding myself accountable and trying different things. So it wasn't just, could I be a good student? It was other things as well, right? Could I be a good artist? Could I be a good athlete, right? You would try any territory that was open to you to take on that challenge.
Right. And when you say striving, I immediately, it's like, yeah, point to the PhD. But for art and athletics, can you say more? I'm curious, what experience do you have with athletics and art?
Well, with art, I broke my foot when I was in middle school. So I was on crutches for a very long time. And as a form of entertainment, my mother decided to take all of the little capsules of paint that my sister had from this paint by numbers experience. And we had a lot of them. My sister did all of these paint by number pictures. And so mother got a great big piece of board from the hardware store. One side was rough, so it looked like a canvas, and put it in the front room. And I used that to paint a huge picture. And, worked on it for months, painting a big mountain scene.
Wow, you still have that?
I still have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And beyond when you were on crutches, Is art still in your life? Do you still create that way?
Art is still in my life. I do watercolors now. I take watercolor classes as a form of relaxation. And I love to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a challenge
Yeah.
to work with the watercolor paint, because watercolors are constructed, I guess you would say, backwards, right?
I don't know. I don't. My wife's an artist. I should know this stuff. But
You should know.
Right. What do you mean by constructed?
Well, they go from light to dark. You start with the light layer, and then you get darker and darker and darker, and you cannot really go back and scrub anything out.
Right. Not as forgiving as
no, not forgiving.
oils.
Not like oils and acrylics. You can paint over anything anytime you want.
Uh-huh.
So that's not fair. That's cheating. So the watercolors, you have to think, you have to have this vision in your head of where you want the lights and the darks, and you can't go scrubbing it out. It always looks ugly if you try to scrub it out.
That's great that you keep honoring, that side. And how about I'm sure there's more we could talk about, but I'm curious about athletics. And you mentioned it in the context of striving. What athletics did you pursue?
Well, I did volleyball in graduate school and had a ton of fun.
Now, let me just pause you for there. We're sitting down, and we haven't met in person, at least not to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
How tall are you, Gloria?
I am 5 feet tall.
Okay. So I'm just thinking, like, when I hear volleyball players, I'm always picturing like the taller side of the distribution.
And this was just a pickup league.
Right.
In the town. So it was fun.
Yeah.
And a great distraction from the work that we were doing. So all the students were on the team. It was just a good social thing to do. Oh,
cool. So your cohort bonded like through volleyball when you're not in the books in classes. Right. Cool.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let's come back to sort of the story you were painting of seeking acceptance and seeking that through different channels. It's like the classic thing is I'm worthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
And you've no doubt reflected. I mean, one of the things that we are going to talk about a little later is the book that you wrote, Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of growth and change. And no doubt before you even wrote that, you had been doing your own, reflection in your own work as a clinical psychologist, right? Like that's part of the
that's
the deal.
Part of the process.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's true, right? You can always discover things about yourself, right? You can do work for a lifetime. I have done work for a lifetime.
Yeah, and I would, leave it to me. I'm breaking it in at the 20-minute mark to crack open the spiritual egg. But the work of a human life is really, it really can't be contained to one lifetime. In my view, we're too complicated, we're too complex at the soul level. We do work in a lifetime, but that's not all. In my view, that is not all the work that we have done or will do.
Well, and we clearly get influenced by previous generations, and we get influenced by the future as well. Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that makes me so interested in changing the way that we approach our boys is artificial intelligence, because it's going to give us more time to be in relationship with each other. Right?
How so? That's curious to me. It's not immediately obvious. You're right about that.
Just look at it. It's very simple, right? Take it domestically, right? I will no longer need to clean the house or make dinners, go shopping. I get a robot to do that. Gives me tons of free time, right? It gives couples more opportunity to be in interaction with each other. And honestly, we don't do that well. Males and females don't do a super job of interacting with each other. And that's because of the way that we raise our boys and limit their emotional access.
Yeah, well, when you talk about robots shopping for you, of course, I'm thinking, not yet, right? Like, unless there's something I'm not
It's
aware
not
of.
that far away. It's not that far away.
I should talk to my father-in-law is a futurist, and he's been writing about AI since the 70s.
Ah, good.
Yeah, so
Oh, you definitely need to talk to
I
him.
yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, so when I get your point regarding outsourcing whatever the human mind and body was gonna do. If we offload that to
Right.
technology,
Right.
then that gives us the time to reinvest in intimacy.
Well, look at writing an email nowadays. If you use AI, the AI writes the email.
And I don't.
You,
Yeah,
you start
I'm too
giving
much of a coward to do
and
that.
it fills in. So
Yeah,
doesn't you're not going to have to spend as much time writing emails.
right. Yeah.
So there will be much more opportunity for social interaction, and you need to know how to do that and how to do that well. And we do not do that well.
Yeah, I am thinking about when you talked about, men and women in relationships, and that we're not doing that well. I do think about not AI necessarily as what gets in the way, because there's been blocks to intimacy long before AI and long before social media as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm wondering if we go to, you mentioned not only in our own lifetime, but basically ancestors pass stuff down to us.
Right.
And you talked about particularly boys. And I know it's true in many other cultures, frankly, but maybe just sticking with the US, what have you learned? I want to kind of tap your nuggets of wisdom about, and your research, your areas of interest regarding boys, and not just how fathers socialize boys, but moms and dads, the parents that swim in the culture are sending unconscious messages of what's acceptable and unacceptable. So say more about all that.
And the unconscious piece is really the key, right? We know from research that mothers limit the emotional range of a boy's emotional expression because they don't go into the higher ranges or the lower ranges. So when your boy gets more emotionally excited, all right, and the boy goes up into a higher range and you don't go there, you're going to have a reaction, all right? It might be very subtle, right? Maybe you just pull back a little bit. Maybe you look away. Maybe you have this quizzical facial expression. All right. So infants are emotionally brilliant. That's their survival skill,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They
Yes.
have to read the world around them in order to survive. So if mother is going to give me kind of a withdrawal or some kind of I don't understand that. I don't like it. Then I'm going to cut that off, right? I'm going to do less and less and less of that because I want connection.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Same thing is true with the lower range. Boys have a broader range of emotional expression. They can get into the negative in a deeper way. They can get into the excited in a more intense way. And so without intent, mother limits that range, all right, and brings the boy back into, well, this is what females are comfortable. with.
Mm.
So let's interact in this range and don't go to those other endpoints. And then, right, we put them on their feet and they start walking around, right? And then the culture as a whole sends very powerful messages about the difference between what do I expect of a boy and what do I expect of a girl. All right. I tell people, go to the park, go to the mall, find some place that parents or adults are interacting with toddlers
Mm-hmm.
and watch what happens. Right. The little girl gets hurt, gets pushed, falls down. She's crying. She heads to the adult. The adult picks her up and asks what happened. Little boy, same thing, falls down, gets hurt, got pushed, heads to the adult, and the adult asks, what happened? If he gives a good enough response, he will be picked up and given some comfort. But most of the time, he is turned around and, go back in there, right? You're fine. Go back. So we then, after mother has said, oops, stay just in this range of emotions, we double down and tell our boys that they cannot express feelings that are on the negative end of the feeling range, right? And then we start to label those feelings with feminine ideas. Don't be a sissy, right? And, there are hundreds more I could use, all with a feminine edge to them and used as derogatory labels for boys who are expressing feelings.
Mm. Let me just name something that's coming up for me. There's two things. I remember, I'll do this from one first. I don't know which class it was, but it was an undergrad, and the assignment, when it was on gender differences, and the assignment was watch. Go out into the world and watch, and then write a paper and report back, right?
See what the culture is doing.
So much is gained in just observation. Your any agenda to take action is, the burden of that is lifted off of you, and you have lantern consciousness anyway. So I'm at somewhere at Target or Home Depot or wherever I am. I think it was a Michael's, actually. I think it was a Michael's, and this little boy, he's like, "Mommy," and he went to get something. Mommy, can I get this? And she scolds him and says, "That's for girls." No, you can't get. That's for girls.
Whoa.
Right. And I thought to myself, I was like, wow. What's the first of all, what's the positive intention behind mom kind of trying to see this interest and redirect or guide him away from that? What's the positive intention behind that? What's the impact? Obviously, that's the first curiosity, was that my inner boy in solidarity with him is like, I don't necessarily remember looking for can I have this Polly Pocket? Because I'm like, oh, they have Mighty Max. It's the same thing, but it's for boys instead of girls. These little miniature toys. But so that memory comes kind of flooding back here. But the other thing that I notice as you're sharing, Gloria, is when you were saying the mom is maybe, don't be a sissy to the boy, that she might not do that to the girl. And yet, so I'm a father and I'm a girl dad. I have two daughters, 7 and 9 right now. And I mean, perhaps I'm speculating because I'm 41 and I've only done so much of the work on myself. So that's where I'm at. And I'm like, oh, well, hold on a second. Am I projecting my programming, conditioning,
right?
Even with girls, being like, if they scuff their knee or whatever, I want them to not be a sissy, not because they're boys, but they're even girls. And I'm wondering, is that my being a boy, programming? If I got that, whether they're girls or boys, I'm just passing that on.
I mean, probably a lot, because if you scuff your knee, it's reasonable to cry.
Of course. No, I
And
know. Well,
it's
this is let me and let me also just clarify here. Not because we're on air and this is public and it's socially desirable, but let me just clarify. I do meet them with true compassion and softness and gentleness.
Mhm.
What's happening privately that I'm filtering is the
Right.
don't be a wuss.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like I protect them from that that
You're
burden that I carry and inside of me. But it's there.
that's your socialization,
It's there. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I have the classic real story is visiting friends who have a boy that's 3. We had a girl who's 3. They're playing nicely. Adults are having a great conversation. My daughter keeps the kid's favorite toy, will not give it back. Right? He makes very good efforts. Right? Adults start to notice something's happening over there. She won't give it back. He gets up, heads towards his parents, and starts crying. Legitimate. She took my favorite toy. She will not give it back. He is legitimately crying. And his father reaches out and whacks him in the chest and lands him on his butt and says, "Stop crying."
Mhm.
Right? We do this,
Yeah.
boys. We don't even realize that we're doing it. We think it's normal, natural to limit that emotional range and get rid of it with boys. Right? Now, it's got a practical reason. If I am going to send you to war,
Yeah, that's right.
I do not want you crying and running in the opposite direction. Right? I want you to cut off all of those feelings of fear, intimidation, worry, sadness, fear of loss. Right? I want you facing forward and running as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But what's the cost to the society, particularly as we move forward? We're less likely to send huge groups of men or women into battle because we kill people by pushing buttons,
Mm-hmm.
right? We could blow up as many people as we want just by pushing a button. So I don't have to send people out onto the battlefield. So gives me some flexibility to say, what would happen if we change the way that we socialize boys in this culture?
Mm.
And what would be the benefit? All right. There has to be a payoff or we're not going to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what the benefit is? You think
Uh,
the benefit?
or having healthier,
Yeah.
having healthy men is a benefit. I mean, whether we parse it between men and women, it's just having healthy caregivers.
Yeah,
Let's see.
but put some dollar signs with it. What would it actually change?
Hmm. I mean, I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. Nothing concrete comes to mind other than the vague trust in when people are healthier and more well balanced, there's less resource leakage. Resources being their own energy, not just, economics, but just their own energy, having more balance, more harmony. What's
Yeah, so you have missed a biggie. Do you have
scope?
any idea how much money we spend on incarcerating males?
Oh, well, there's that. Yeah, there's that.
Right?
No, I have no idea how much money we spend
Yeah.
on incarcerating them.
Well, just, all you have to do is Google it. All right. Google says we spend $25 million a year incarcerating males. Now, what do you think we could do with that amount of money if it didn't go to housing males in jails?
I mean, a whole number of things.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So there's the reason to give men access to the full range of feelings so that when they are frustrated because they can't get their point across to their wives, all right, they will put energy into explaining what their thoughts and feelings are rather than throwing something or pushing somebody, right, and ending up in a legal situation that sends them to jail.
Right. Well, and also the throwing and pushing may or may not be accompanied with substance abuse, right?
Right.
Yeah. And because you're if you have the healthy balance to feel permitted to name what you're feeling, then
Well, we could look up how much we spend on substance abuse treatment
sure.
as well, right? And we could add that to what we spend on putting men in jail. And our jails are full of men. They're not full of women. They're full of men for the very reason that we do not give them access to the full range of emotions. So they can't problem solve.
I'm curious if that, because while we've been having this conversation, there's the girl side of things where we're focusing on what could change about how the culture rears its young boys, but also like, yeah, what are the messages and the permission structures that young, like little girls are getting conditioned in programming. And because one of the things that I believe, haven't done direct research on this, and so I don't know it for a fact, but one of the things that I'm influenced by is the belief that women are, and again, not all women and different cultures have different permission structures, but like women aren't socialized to express anger and pay a big cost on their health by suppressing anger. And I'm just kind of like looking at, so I'm curious, we don't actually have to go down that rabbit hole necessarily, but when you name prisons, I'm kind of wondering if that was a door into if I'm Gloria, how could I, Gloria, answer the calling to make this world a better place with my particular set of skills, and was the opening to helping boys, was it through men? It meant like the prison, like something's wrong in the culture that we keep on exiling all these men.
Right.
Was that, what was it that brought your interest about, changing how we help and rear young boys?
It was actually the boys that I started evaluating at the preschool level.
Okay. Makes
at
sense.
The beginning of my practice, and then discovering that their fathers put themselves on my calendar to learn about themselves, right? And to talk about the fact of the way they were parented, the way they were raised, what academics, the impact of that for them. And so kind of that's where it started.
Yeah,
But
makes sense.
to your point about women, we have been very active about expanding roles for women, right? That's why women enroll in college now more than men.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Women are heads of huge corporations. That never used to happen. That wouldn't have been my experience in middle school. Nobody would have been talking to me about being the head of General Motors.
Right.
Right? I might work on the assembly line, but or clean the bathrooms for the people that worked on the assembly line, but nobody would be talking to me about being the head of General Motors. And now that's common fare, right? Women can go out and do anything they choose to do. Men cannot. They can't be tender. They can't be gentle. They can't be emotionally open. We don't want that in our men, but we need to change that so that there's a healthier society moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, of course. You know, the little ego inside of me is like, but I'm tender. I'm
Okay.
right. But but I realize that Gloria is making the point of all the men, roughly speaking. You know,
Correct.
yeah. But and also not denying the fact that that's not necessarily um,
If I pressed you, I bet we could find examples of where you have decided not to pursue an emotional path, kind of with the idea of, well, it's not that important, or it won't make that much difference, or it probably won't be successful anyway. So I'll just curb my enthusiasm for explaining more of what my emotional needs are, and I'll just be content with the way things are happening.
oh, I'm sure.
Hmm.
I'm sure. Yeah. And again, the association that I have, you talked about the story about calculus and switching the minors and the majors. And
Hmm.
when I was in undergrad, I majored in computer science. Now, why? My dad was like, hey, the
The
job
jobs
prospects,
are
right?
there,
The
right?
jobs are there. Exactly. And so, I'm going to Salisbury University for undergrad, and oh, lo and behold, the newest facility on campus is the computer science facility, and
Hey, great.
so I major. I'm like, I'm not undeclared. I'm just majored in
You're
computer science,
right, and you're
and
a
then
star.
well, no, I go into the first day, the
Mhm.
first day, and I don't understand one word. And I don't mean to be rude or insulting to the professor, but I'm trying to advocate for that lack of understanding. I raise my hand and say, I don't understand anything you're saying. And then after that course, I get up and I go to the advisor and I say, we're gonna make me undeclared,
Right.
and
I have to do something different.
I got to do something that is for me,
Mhm.
not for my dad's imagination of my future self. And again, all credit to him in terms of
Yeah,
like
no,
he wants
good
his boy to
advice.
be
It was good advice because those are where the jobs are going to unfold at
uh-huh.
that point in time, and they did
Yeah.
unfold.
Yeah. And so that was the first memory that kind of came regarding I wasn't curbing enthusiasm, but it was just I don't know. I don't know why I had that association. It was something about like being on one path and then kind of saying, this is not for me, and kind of just like listening and trusting intuition. But when
Mm-hmm.
you said if we pressed you, I was like, I'm game. I'm game if you want to.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sitting in front of Gloria Vanderhorst. Why would I be a fool not to? I mean, I'm literally I'm trying to, and I don't want to be selfish for listeners and
Hmm.
viewers. I also want to kind of invite the wisdom and the years of clinical experience. So I am a little scattered here. I have parts that are like, let's talk more about dads. And you said the dads were getting on your calendar and they wanted, so I'm really open here in terms of where do you feel instincts to turn towards or move down?
Well, I will follow your lead. I'm
Yeah.
flexible.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's try you said if you pressed me, let's press
Hmm.
me. Do you have an instinct or an inclination there?
Okay. Um, so as a guy, right, in high school, how would you describe yourself and the dynamics with other guys?
Mm. Smoking lots of weed. No, I mean that's true, but the dynamics with guys. I was hanging out. I want to say most of my friends were guys. And the dynamics were playing music.
Mhm.
I had done sports my whole life, and then um went to the in middle school. I sort of saw the Sherwood High School rock and roll revival. So as like a middle school boy, I saw these high school girls on stage and I was like, I want to be with
I'm
them.
in there.
I want to be with them. So like let's go music. Let's go
Let's find
music.
music.
Instead of sports, we're gonna go. Yeah. So anyway, like, that's the middle school boy is how can I get with those girls?
Mhm.
And so what was that? What were the dynamics with my male peers?
Right.
I mean, I was playing music and crassly, making fun of people. I definitely identify as, in terms of like the bullying construct, the bystander, the upstander, the bully, and the target. Like I'm all of them. All
Mhm.
of them.
Mhm.
But that's a little off base with what else? With what are the dynamics? I mean, playing video games with guys, playing music with guys.
Yeah, can you
Um,
see all of that, the music, the video games, as parallel play?
Parallel play.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, with the music, it's yes. I mean, yes, but the music is a little bit more of a, like, you're speaking a language. I don't. Yeah, part of me balks at music being defined as parallel play because it's this shared flow state.
Mhm.
I do agree regarding video games. If we're just like, if we're sitting on a couch and watching a TV together, we're not turning towards each other and sharing in that way.
Mhm. Yeah, but you're still competing with each other. So there is a connection. Music is the same thing, right? You're playing your instrument.
Mhm.
Other guys are playing their instruments, right? And really into doing the best that they possibly can so that the sound for the group is great. Um, and you're having fun, all right? But there isn't a lot of intense interaction or interpersonal connection. You guys, you're creating something together, but by and large, you're engaging in parallel play.
Okay.
So it's not unusual at all uh, for men to be so even in my head, I'm thinking of the football lineup,
Mhm.
right? So we are a team, right? But we're lining up next to each other and heading towards the opposition. We're not really interacting with each other. If you look at the majority of things that engage men, they could fall into the category of parallel play,
Okay.
right? And they have a purposeful outcome to them that everyone enjoys. But the function, by and large, would fit the category of parallel play.
And I'm just curious if what's lost, because there's an assumption that something's lost with parallel play. So
Yeah, yeah. So let's take two little kids in the sandbox. All right, they're engaging in parallel play. Each one of them is doing something with the sand, but they're doing different things with the sand, and they're having fun. They're enjoying each other as well as enjoying themselves. But the social dynamic is not one of reciprocity. All right. I'm not influencing what you're creating in your part of the sandbox. You're not influencing what I'm creating in my part of the sandbox. The music is a little bit more because, right, what you tune to is going to influence what
totally.
I tune to for sure. All right. So there's more cooperative play in that. Uh, but it still has a huge chunk. We're here doing our thing, but we're doing it together. And that's a lot of the social dynamic with men. We're here doing our thing, right? We've come together to watch the football game,
Mhm.
right? But we're not doing a lot of talking with each other. And by and large, men do have great difficulty sharing anything that goes below the surface into emotional history, emotional issues or problems. that they're wrestling with dynamics with their wives, their peers, their work, their children. Those tend to be things that they internalize, right? That's why men have more heart attacks, men have more stomach issues. We just don't give you guys the opportunity to be able to use emotions the way that I think they were intended, right? They're intended for release. And we know for sure that when they get used that way, right, a really reciprocal conversation is going to lower your blood pressure. That's valuable, right? We know that social interactions can have very positive impacts on our physical well-being. It can reduce blood pressure. We know that it can influence certain forms of heart disease and reduce that. It can reduce or protect you from developing diabetes. I mean, there are all kinds of positive benefits to social interaction that gets translated into keeping my body healthy. But men don't get the benefit of that the way that women do, because men are not discussing deeper personal issues. They're really uncomfortable with that. They're talking about the latest pieces in the news, things that frustrate them at work, things that didn't go right, things that did go right, the upcoming promotion, but not about the questions that they're asking themselves internally, not about the emotional processing that they're doing internally. A lot of that just stays in your body, translates into illness.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about like if I'm a guy listening to our conversation, and I'm buying into the points that you're making. Well, actually, let me maybe speak for something. Another wheel that's turning is the notion of, even if I wanted to. This is kind of like I promise this will connect, but like they talked about like taking cell phones out of high schools and like having kids being asked this question, like, would you rather have like all the kids in your high school have phones and TikTok or not? And the person being asked this question is like, well, what do my friends get?
Right.
Like, so they're like, if they get it, then yes, because I don't want to be left out. If they don't, then I would actually prefer that we all not have it there. So their answer is conditional, and it kind of mean. And so the way that connects back is, if I'm a guy listening to the points that you're making, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's all solid. But if I take Gloria's invitation and open myself up, I'll get creamed. I'm not gonna. There's not gonna be reciprocity because of that very culture of like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? We're at happy hour. Why are you bumming me out? I don't know what to say to you.
Why would I disclose anything?
Fucking man up. Yeah, yeah, right. So like I'm saying, even if you have the courageous, heroic individual that does this, they're doing it amongst the culture.
Right. You're right on target. You're absolutely right. It's very, very difficult to take the risk, and you have to be cautious about who you take that risk with. All right. So, there has to be tests, right? You have to be able to discern someone who is safe enough to take that risk. And I've known guys in the course of all of my work that have taken that risk and been really shot down.
Yeah.
Right? Really shot down. What the blank are you talking about, dude?
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Right. and that can be hurtful peer to peer. But imagine the young man who's opening up to his mom or dad and then gets shot down. Maybe more likely dad, but yeah.
Yeah. But mom can do it too.
Oh wow, I'm aware. Not from personal. I'm actually very, very blessed with my mom. No, but I'm aware from observation. You know, and not necessarily in my professional experience, but personally, I'm observing that. Yeah. So I'm wondering.
All right, so I'm touting a complete cultural change. You notice that?
Yeah, right? You don't say. Well, yeah. There's, I guess, let's go with that because you just named it. I'm always like have a 4-pronged fork here and can always go in different directions. But okay, let's go. Since you just said that, what's your invitation for, the guys that are listening to? And I've done the numbers on this show. More women listen to this show than men, but it's like 60-40. So
that's pretty good.
At least the last time So to the guys that are in the audience, what's your call to action for them, or what's your invitation for them, especially the dads?
So I think it is happening with dads, particularly as I talk to dads who are kind of in the industry, if you will, right? Sociologists, psychologists, they're looking at the dynamic with their children and their boys in particular, and making changes, right? Deciding to take time to talk to this boy seriously, right? Not just about sports, not just about games, not just about their academics, but to really be curious about their feeling states, all right? And what are they experiencing on a feeling level in the course of the day? So I applaud those dads who are doing more and taking the risk. It's also true that adolescents in this generation are challenging each other more to give more emotional information and do a deeper dive into what I said or did and how did that impact you. So there are changes that are happening. All right. Obviously, they're not happening fast enough for me, because I see a crash in the future if we're not able to do this, and give permission to both men and women to be more transparent and engage each other in better ways. And kind of all of the traditional things that we needed this more emotional isolation for are just slowly but surely disappearing, right? I don't need the emotional isolation anymore. I'm actually not going to send you in the field to shoot somebody, hopefully. I've got ways to do that.
Yeah, it seems, I don't know. And again, my gut is that kind of change is going to take a long time, but I'm happy to be proven wrong about that. And certainly people that make predictions about how long or short something, people get it wrong. But there's something I'm just wondering about, like, regarding evolution, regarding like when something is wired in, because I think men in every culture, their governments needed them for war. I don't think that's US. You know what I'm saying? So if it's
no, it's everywhere.
Right. So I'm saying given that, that it's not maybe like 8 generations of a legacy burden in a culture, but rather it's the species, it's the, I feel like that's going to take a while, even though like drone technology or the robots are going to go to war, not us. That's real. That's relatively new. So I just don't, I don't know. I'm also, this is something maybe that I thought about a moment ago that I'd like to name here, which is like, what about the ways in which women feel protective of vulnerability? Again, when we say men and women,
Mhm.
it should go without saying, but let's just say, not everyone's going to resonate with being pigeonholed into like, that's
True.
not who I'm a woman, but that's not or I'm a man. So there's a distribution, but just like, we're talking about men who don't want to show vulnerability, but how does that show up with women? Or is that, I know that's not necessarily in your swim lane as a researcher or in your clinical
Right.
experience necessarily,
Right.
but I'm sure you have thoughts on that.
Well, so we have socialized girls in a very different way. We, from very early on, give them permission to cry, and we get less distressed by their cries. Uh, Infants, that's true. Um, Toddlers, that's true. I mean, we give females permission to cry. We don't give them permission to get angry, which is interesting, right? We give boys permission to get angry and throw a fit, and we'll tolerate that. But if a girl does it, we're going to be on top of that and not want that to repeat.
Yeah, I'm just speaking for the Joe Schmo listener who's like, I don't give permission for my son to slam doors or whatever. Like they're throwing a fit. It's like, there's
we tolerate it though, right? We tolerate it. We label it as, I don't like it, but I understand it. Guys have more energy is what we say to ourselves. And, I'm going to make him repair the door that he just busted. And that'll teach him not to get that angry.
And teach him accountability and responsibility.
Right. Accountability, responsibility, and a little bit of carpentry.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah. Well, depending on how young or old, right?
Might as well.
Yeah. But yeah, what are I'm wondering how do women protect their vulnerability? How does that look different than men? Because you're basically saying boys are taught you're not allowed to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And then men feel grief and sadness, but they don't do that grief cycle. They don't unload the sadness. It's all trapped and stuck in their poor nervous systems. I say them, myself included. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just curious, like so are women locking up their anger?
That is a good question. I'm not sure that I could really answer that question.
Well, and my absurd answer to that is, have you seen the Housewives of New Jersey or whatever some sort of like what my mom would call trash TV, and like some like Italian lady who's like, what the fuck? And then just flipping over the table, or whatever, right? Like, I'm like, well, there's permission to show anger. But again, maybe in little subcultures there is, but generally speaking, I don't remember where I heard this from, but just the notion of like women they're not allowed to express anger. And it just like you were talking about guys' blood pressure, it's like women, it's not good for their health if they're locking away or suppressing their anger because it's not culturally allowed.
Right. Yeah. I think they express it more in passive aggressive.
No doubt. No.
And so as a male, you would be familiar with that.
Yeah. Well,
so there is more release, if you will. I'm going to go down these two paths. All right. Yes, women are not throwing things, hopefully, except on the Housewives shows, and upending tables or shooting people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean that. Of course, whenever there's a news story and there's a shooter, no, I don't know anyone who's imagining a woman or a young gal.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Those are all males. Right?
Yeah.
But surely there are women out there that have similar feeling states and
fantasies. Yeah.
Fantasies about doing that. But we do have this dichotomy. And as we move forward socially, my hope is that dichotomy narrows so that we have more similarity than difference in terms of our emotional understanding and emotional maturity, because we'll be healthier physically if we do that, and we will be more productive as a people. Right? I can build something if I have a group of people who can understand each other, function well together, work together, accept each other. Future possibilities are great. The other thing that I think is, it might be my idea, I don't know how many other people have this idea, that I look at attention deficit
Mhm.
as an advance in human nature, not as a problem,
Say more about this.
right? I see this as a genetic advance. And if you look at the people who have been developing things, inventing things, creating new things in this culture, you will see the majority of them have attention deficit.
Mhm.
And you got to ask yourself, all right, why would that be the case? Why isn't there a balance? All right, why don't a quarter of them have attention deficit? Not 98%
Yeah.
of them. All right, they have attention deficit. I think we have to face the fact that attention deficit, that ability to hold multiple things in your head simultaneously, and then somehow create something out of it, is actually a human advance.
Mhm.
And
It's a
phase.
new block on the evolutionary tree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an evolutionary advance.
Yeah, there's no doubt about people who are highly creative or people who are high in the 5-factor model of personality, high in trait openness. There's more ADHD there, and I think there's more. Is it true that it affects boys more than girls?
I don't think it's true that it affects boys
Is it
more
that
than
girls
girls.
mask theirs, or?
Well, we identified boys earlier for the very reason that preschools are run by women.
Yeah, you said there's something in your bio that talked about the boys stress out the female teachers more.
Right.
And I was like, so the male teachers are less stressed out by these boys?
Oh, yeah. Male teachers are not going to pay the same reactive,
Cost.
they're not going to pay, they're going to notice it, they pay attention, but it isn't going to like irritate them. Right? It isn't going to raise their sense of, oh, I better investigate if there's something wrong with this boy. It's just like, he's a boy. Right? So, yes, he needs to move around more. And sure, he climbed on the top of the desk in order to open his little book and read. I mean, who wouldn't if you can? Right? And, why is there a rule that I can't sit on the top of my desk and read? Why not? Right? I read in the top of my bunk. So I like reading from someplace higher than everybody else. Yeah. So the male is not distressed by it, right? Not seeing it as an outlier of any kind. The female sees it immediately as an outlier. Why is he sitting on his desk? Nobody else is sitting on their desk. Must be something wrong with him. Instead of, hey, cool idea. The guy is, hey, that's a cool idea. That's a neat place to read.
Or is the fear, if I allow him to sit on his desk, they're all going to be on their desks, and then it's going to be chaos in my classroom.
No, but that's not chaos. If they're all on the desk,
that's unity.
Reading comfortably, that's unity. That's not chaos. It's different from what you expected.
No, and then I was embodying the teachers
raised with. Yeah, but it's not chaos.
No, and I was speaking for the teacher's fear, right? From the fear perspective. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that this is you've got an upcoming book that's coming out. Is that right?
I do. I'm working on a book for fathers, right? To help fathers to just address this issue of how do I raise my boy? And what can I do to give my boy more access to emotion range than the culture will approve? And there's value in that long term, right? It will reduce the number of guys going to jail, right? Save us money. We can use that money to do something else.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree that, again, I think maybe it's my German roots. I have no idea, or my engineer of a dad, but like, I'm always like, if there's energy that's leaking or like wasted energy, like that's a problem. Instead of trying to like find new sources of energy, can we just stop the leak first? Let's just stop the leak, you know? So I totally take your point about, we could use the resource of money, all the money that our society has to spend or is allocated towards containing and treating this unhealthy component. I appreciate that, and also like the harm. I mean, it's not just the cost of the prison system, but just what are the? I mean, I'm not. It's too.
Yeah, the sociological harm is tremendous.
Tremendous, yeah, and I couldn't even begin to like quantify that with a price, right? But it's just all the harm that can be prevented.
Generations too, right? It isn't just what's happening in the moment; it really tumbles through generations.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I want to ask more about the book. You said it's for fathers with sons,
right?
So me being a girl dad, I'm not the target audience for this.
You're not the target audience, right? Okay, maybe you could benefit from pieces of it, right? Because you definitely will interact with boys that are friends of your girls
or my nephews.
This point forward, or nephews.
Well, this is why I was asking. Is my nephews are raised by two moms, so not a dad there. So that two moms and two twin boys. And so I'm curious if, even though this book is for fathers of boys, I'm wondering what kind of benefit, that if there's a house that's doesn't have much masculine energy except for the prepubescent boys in that house, would it be useful for in a lesbian couple to read this?
I think it would be, right, to really take a look at really understanding more of what's the emotional history for boys and men in general, and looking at the way that you're interacting with your boy, and where are you setting emotional boundaries? What emotional boundaries would you want to change because you read this and reflect and take a look and say, well, maybe that wasn't so smart to put that emotional boundary out there. And it's also true, right, that women are uncomfortable with men crying. The softer emotions, right? Women are uncomfortable with that too, or even a bit of distress. I have this example of, so the women keep saying, gosh, I wish my husband was more emotional or would disclose more to me, right? And understand feelings. So the guy comes home from work, right? She says, how was your day? And he said, actually, it was awful, right? I was really disappointed. I was in a meeting this morning and all my ideas were shut down, right? Does she invite more? Oh, I'm so sorry. All right. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Right? Typically, the female who says she longs for more emotional connection really doesn't appreciate how to facilitate that emotional connection when it's coming from male to female. She's talking about when she is distressed, right? And when she has an issue, she's talking about going from female to male, right? And wishing he had a skill set to facilitate more conversation, a deeper dive into her feeling experiences. But women have a responsibility. If you want a stronger, deeper emotional connection, you have a responsibility of learning how to facilitate that with the male, right? Who comes home with this problem. And then you go, well, they've done that to you in the past too. I'm really so sorry. Maybe you should look for a different job.
I'm so appreciative of you speaking to this, Gloria. Gosh, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I feel it on my chest. That's very interesting.
Good.
Oh yeah, no, I know it's
Good.
not a bad feeling. It's like a punch in the chest, right? Like in a, I just also for our listeners to, it's almost like I can almost fantasize or imagine the denial of that, right? Like, I'm right. Like if I can do that with my girlfriends, surely I can do that with my husband, right? But that doesn't appreciate the unconscious programming of like, actually, right. I've learned that this is not allowed and I'm uncomfortable around it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it happens all the time, right? When you're doing couples work, you just see it. It just, blares out into the room. The guy would be more open. He would disclose. He would go deeper, but you're not providing space for that. All right? You're co-opting the conversation, either by shutting it down or by mentioning some stressor that you had.
I think you just nailed why it punched me in the chest, because I'm 10 plus years as a couples therapist. so I just to be on air and to be like, whoa, like
right.
in terms of a blind spot for because I'm in the room with this stuff, and yet I'm not appreciating that component. Right. I'm so grateful for you naming it.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And it is critical. And we, as women, we just do it unconsciously. It has no intent
to
it whatsoever, right? If the guy were to push through, there would be a real shift, all right? If the guy were to say, wait a minute, don't dismiss me, don't cut me off. I really need to process this. I really need to talk through this, all right? Then they'd get a cup of coffee, they'd sit down someplace comfortable, right? And you'd have a good listener there. But that's not the female's initial approach. The initial approach is to package it. You'll be okay. Don't worry. They'll get you next cycle.
I'm wondering now that I'm kind of curious about, like, for our listeners, for myself, if we were a fly on the wall in Gloria Vanderhorst's office, right, and she's with a couple, and then that and you're
a fly swatter and kill you.
All right, okay. We have to. I'll pick a different animal.
Okay,
right?
all right. I get the point.
Yeah. So yeah, if you were seeing that that dynamic unfold, and which you're very familiar with, as a clinician, how do you help that couple open that space up?
Yeah, I might do an instant replay. All right. So I might engage the male with his initial message and just kind of push a little bit, would you be willing to talk about this or that? And then if so, I'm going to transfer you to your partner, and I'm going to instruct your partner, right, with some things that she can say or do to help you tell more of this story. So the things she can do can be verbal, and they can also be nonverbal, right? If I were just to reach out and touch this guy, I really don't need to say anything else. He'll start talking.
It's so powerful.
He'll keep going.
Yeah.
All right. Just because I have paused, I've paid attention, and I've made a real connection. Physical touch is powerful, right?
Very powerful.
Incredibly powerful. The majority of your body is covered by skin. That's the biggest organ
Mhm.
in your body, right? Touch it any place. And there's this just whoosh of needing that connection, appreciating that connection, wanting to move towards that connection.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious about the, what you were describing earlier is that the woman is uncomfortable with the man's
Right,
vulnerability,
right.
and as you're sort of coaching and inviting them to try it a new way, I'm curious about how that discomfort around his vulnerability shows up, or how it's you make it safe for her or validate her, like, so in my fantasy it's like, is that something that is talked about in an individual session, or it's talked about right there in the conjoint session, talked about ahead of time, processed in real time
Well, I won't
afterwards?
do it in real time. I do it right there in the session, right? To really help him understand that he deserves this respect,
Yeah.
right? And that he is allowed to go deeper, and to help her reduce the anxiety
Right.
and the fear that, God, I don't know what to do here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He's bringing this package. I have no idea what to do with it.
Right. And it's like, just because you don't know what to do with it doesn't mean you're bad or wrong. Does it make
Right.
sense to you that you don't know what to do with it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
great. The
Mhm.
self-validation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But don't ignore the package,
Right.
right? You have to do something. So do something.
I'm curious how, like, there's a sexual component. We talk about sex differentiation here, and gender socialization, but like I'm curious how I it's like all the undergrad coursework and stuff. I don't know where it's coming from, but somewhere someone told me that um that sexual attraction in heterosexual couples goes down when the role specialization between, let's just take the heterosexual couple of a man and a woman living together, husband and wife, say,
Mhm.
and the wife is getting an oil change on the lawnmower, and the husband is, making dinner. Like when they're doing the reverse
And
gender roles,
non-traditional, right?
non-traditional gender roles, that the sexual attraction goes down in both directions. Not just
Mhm.
like when my husband is like, you know, working on the car, I'm more turned on because I can't work on the car. But when he's doing the laundry, it's not a turn on for me, right? And the reverse being true. I'm
Mhm.
just wondering, in your research, have you seen that, and is that related, ancillary to the um what we're talking about here regarding feeling safe to open up and be vulnerable, or is it a
Yeah,
total
I
nonsense?
think that's absolutely valid, but it should not stop you as a therapist in the intervention, and educating people about that is important too, because if I'm educated about that, I can now start to play with that, right? I don't have to live in the tradition, right? I don't have to live in this is what research says, all
Mhm.
right? Now we can start to play with that. And play is fun,
Yes.
right? We all like to play, and we can play. We can get silly, all right? We can create new things.
Yeah, and play also sends the message to everyone in the room, it's safe.
Uh-huh.
It's like you can't play when you don't feel safe.
Right.
I mean, you could try, but you can feign,
It does.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can feign
It's,
play, but
it's
it's,
safety and it's acceptance,
yeah.
right? So you could have tons of fun with the guy in the laundry. You can
Gloria,
make that very sexual.
yeah, totally. So let me ask, so when is this book coming out?
My goal is by the end of this year.
Okay, end of this year. So by what, like
End of this
December,
year.
December
Yeah.
2025?
Yep.
Is self-published publishing house, or who's?
I've been working with a publisher. I don't know if I will send this one to the publisher. I also have done a second essay book. So that's definitely coming out by the end of the year. And I may try to sell this to a different publisher. Who knows?
What's the title of this upcoming book?
Let's see. I am going to forget it because it's a follow-up to the Read, Reflect, Respond.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so it's another journal book, but we've changed the title.
You know what's funny about that? I was just speaking actually to Robert Falconer. He's a guest who's been on the show before. He's the, as he calls it, he's the sewer cleaner in the IFS world, working with all the unattached burdens and stuff. But he had to change the name of his book. He's coming out with a book, and I think the original title that he wanted to give it was Spirit Speaks, and there's like 6 other books that are titled that. And so like, what'd you say?
There's 6 other books that are titled in that way.
Yeah, therefore it's like the publisher's like, you probably should change the, right, literally at the last second move, like you got to rechange the title. But that's exciting. That's very, very exciting. Is there going to be an it's a journal book, so does that mean there's no audiobook version of it?
Well, it's hard to do that as an audio book because I really want people actually writing in reaction.
Yeah.
And so I did look up the name of the new one, and it's no, I don't have it. Sorry.
That's okay. If people are interested, they can go to your website, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Might as well name your what's your website?
Oh, it's www.drvanderhorst.com. So it's www.drvanderhorst.com. Real easy to find. It's got videos of different approaches to therapy that you can watch. It has all of the blog posts. It's got good resources as well as a way to contact me directly.
Yeah. And we'll certainly put it in the show notes as well. Do you have a newsletter, Gloria?
No, I publish a blog on Substack and MailChimp, and usually there are 2 of them a week.
Wow. I can do one blog post every 2 years. No, I mean, it's absurd. Maybe I can do one every 3 months. The podcast takes up a lot of time, as you can imagine.
Oh, I'm sure. I admire you for doing that. I don't think I could ever do that. It's a lot of time and energy.
It does, especially, I mean, podcasts have executive producer, they have whole teams, and I'm a one-guy operation, really. So it does take a lot of resources. But I want to ask you, was the Read, Reflect, Respond book, was that your first publication? I mean, you had maybe published in journals, but in the current world, yes. My husband will remind me that during the Gulf War, I wrote a book for children to try to help them understand the concept of war. But that was decades ago. You know who the first person that I popped in my head when I think about your effort to help children understand what's happening around them? Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers. So did you never publish that book?
I did publish that book, but it's been decades ago.
But I'm saying, if someone were interested in that, could they find it on your website?
They could not find it on my website.
Oh, come on. You spent
No,
so much hard work and time and
I'd have to go back and find it myself.
yeah. Well, you sort of answered the question of what gave you the motivation or inspiration for that first book. So what gave you, when did the read, reflect, respond book, when did it come to you?
So I've been doing this blog publishing for quite some time. And I started to look at making use of it in therapy sessions, right? Here's something I wrote. Take a look at it, see what pops up for you. We'll talk about it later. And then it occurred to me I could just put a bunch of these together. And so that's what I did. I put 52 of them together so that you have one a week, but it's organized so you could jump around. You can take them in any order that you want. And the facing pages are blank. So you can draw, you can scribble, or you can write, but you don't have to use words.
Yeah.
It's powerful because we store so much of ourselves and our interactions and information in terms of things other than words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you had this storehouse of work and invitations to clients and were basically like, hey, I can just, package this, right?
Right. Just put it together.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder, I'm thinking now, maybe in the pre-roll of this episode, to read an excerpt or to go to your blog and read one of those posts as a kind of like a teaser for people that might be interested in getting that book, as just like a sample, right?
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah. So that's when it came. So, and then how long did it take you to go from that idea kind of called to you? It's like, oh, I could just do that. And then from that moment to actually getting it, now you can get it on Amazon and start pushing copies. How long did that take?
Probably about 3 months.
Wow, that's a quick turnaround time.
It's a very quick turnaround because I had so much material already, right? That it was just easy to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious what is keeping you busy these days? What is your, just that you're still in practice, right? You still maintain a license and
I still maintain a license. I still do therapy. I love it. I can't imagine stopping it.
yeah.
And I'm writing on a regular basis and working on finishing this book for fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my spare time, I take watercolor classes and play a little Baroque instrument called an ottavino.
What's that instrument called?
It's called an ottavino.
Ottavino. Is that a string, a brass? What is, you said woodwind?
No, it's a string. It is like a harpsichord, but imagine a harpsichord made for a woman's lap.
Oh, I wonder if this is the kind of thing that would be played at the Maryland Renaissance Festival.
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably.
Are
on there.
So are there keys or are there?
Yeah, it's keys. It's organized like a harpsichord. It plucks the strings.
Oh, interesting.
But it's just a smaller version of a harpsichord.
Okay. And now when you're over the threshold and this next book comes out, since you're such a prolific writer and you're just like, you can't imagine a world where you're not a clinician actively. Because I think about, when you talk to financial planners and they're like, when you retire, it's like,
yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll happen, but I don't really see it. As long as I love what I do and people are benefiting from what I do, I don't see the reason to stop it.
Yeah. Right. And that's kind of like how I think about it too, is that we just, it's a calling. It's like, why would I not give this back to the community, to my,
right.
the living cohort that share this earth with me while I'm capable of doing so.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I know that I think men decline faster than women do in retirement. Is that true? Do you find that to be the case?
I think that's true. Yes, because men don't have as many social connections. It's the social connection that keeps us healthy.
Right. I was thinking it was more the sense of purpose. I totally take your point on the social connection, but I feel like I don't know. And again, this is more into the veering into the spiritual, but like when a soul embodies or incarnates and it has a purpose, a mission to achieve on earth, and then it's finished its mission, like it feels like that's when people leave their body. They're like, I'm done the work that I'm here to do, and now I'm out of here. There's decline.
Yeah, but that purpose that you're talking about only has value because of the interaction and the impact on other people.
Maybe traditionally, I'm wondering about yes, I think so.
And you can't accomplish it without interacting with other people.
Yeah.
Right. You go into isolation and your health will deteriorate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's a very special person that can not have their health deteriorate when they're in isolation. I feel like isolation, we are wired to be social.
That's right.
And so when you're isolated, guess who you're going to socialize with? If you're not going to socialize with people, living embodied souls, who do you start to socialize with? Maybe it's ancestors,
right.
some of which are whole and well, and some of which are not whole and well. Yeah. And yeah. Because like you have the example of the monk that's by themselves and actually like working on themselves spiritually because they are being visited by demons and they know how to navigate that realm, versus the person who's in solitary confinement and losing their mind because they have not been trained how to swim in those waters.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we bring our conversation in for a landing, I really feel compelled to ask you if there's, again, you've been doing this 50 plus years, and you see individuals, couples. Do you work with families, Gloria?
I have worked with families. Right now, I do not have a family system in my calendar.
Right. And do you still work with kids?
I do not.
Okay.
All the work now is remote. Since COVID, there's been kind of a dramatic shift in working with adults. And after COVID, they liked the remote experience so much because they didn't have to leave work and drive 45 minutes or an hour and then spend an hour in therapy and drive back to work. That it has just stayed in place as the favored way to engage. You miss things as a therapist because you can only see part of the body. And our body expresses so much.
Yeah.
That sometimes you have to ask questions about, what are you doing with your hands, or what are your feet doing, legs and feet. I have a friend who asked me about this same question, and we're sitting outside on the patio, and he's got his legs crossed, and one of his feet is just going like this, right?
Shaking, yeah.
Moving as fast as it can go. And I said, well, if we were on video, I would miss that. And that's very important. It tells me something about you.
Yeah.
So he's teased me about that ever since. I can't
do you know
without it.
I take your point, and I'll tell you that when someone's shaking their limb like that, their appendage, even if it's a foot at the ankle, I see the body shaking. Because I remember when COVID happened, that was a very common topic of therapists talking about, the benefits and, like the drawbacks. And when someone's shaking their foot, their whole body shakes. It's very subtle, but you can see it. The technology, the resolution is high enough where that's hard to kind of. It's also Again, I don't remember where I learned it from, but the farther away, maybe it was a body language book, but the farther away from the central nervous system, the brain, right up here in your skull, the farther away the body part is, the less conscious you are about controlling it. And they're talking about, like, powerful people sitting behind desks where you can't see what their legs and feet are doing. Or like
it could have been in Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score. There's lots of good information in that.
Do you know, I still haven't read that book. As much of a powerhouse book that is, it really is a book that I ought to have read by now. But I remember seeing it at a bookstore, and I flipped to the back page where it started talking about internal family systems, and I was basically just like, oh, what does this book have to say about internal family systems? Because I'm such an IFS nut. I am really down the deepest rabbit hole you can imagine with IFS.
That's great. It is the ideal way to be helpful.
Yeah, is that's what you feel? The ideal way? I mean,
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you, and this is maybe a little inside baseball for non, professionals in our industry, but Dick has he's resisted talking about the stuff that people get in level 3 trainings, and he's afraid that it'll discredit the model. There's more strange stuff, but he's finally talking about it. It's still behind a paywall because it's on Sounds True, but he's talking about IFS and spirituality. And the reason why he's like, I'm finally talking about it is because of what's happening in our culture, and the
good for him.
Yeah, the multiple crises that we're facing. So here's the question. Here's the question that I, just to kind of come back, is, since you've been working for as long as you have and have no plans on retiring anytime soon, and God bless you, that's a gift for everyone. I'm wondering what you can share with therapists who are listening, lay audience. What have you learned? And it maybe feels like such a utilitarian formulated question, like, give me the gold nugget. But it seems foolish not to ask you, if I've got a bunch of other therapist guests and they've only been doing this 10 years, you've been doing it 50. What have you learned in your time as a clinician about relationships, about humans, and what's some sage advice that you can leave our listeners?
Well, as a therapist, if I were giving advice to other therapists, I would tell them to do their own individual work.
Yeah.
Because that pays off long term, but not to do it all the time. Right? To give yourself opportunities to grow and apply what you learn in your own individual therapy.
Have you met a lot of people that are gung-ho and obsessed with self-growth, and they're not taking breaks with it? Is that why you say don't do it all the time?
Yeah, I think it's more common among therapists to take that approach, either to do individual or group things constantly, rather than giving yourself the time and the space to do the application. Right? You need to not only learn the work, you need to be able to do the work.
Yeah. It's like processing and integrating needs to happen, from what you just learned.
Right, in your own life.
How about for the non-therapist, the lay audience? What can you say? Again, if I were to clip this, right? Like, if someone were, not everyone listens to the whole, and it's like, if we truly save the best for last, and some people miss this, and I clip it and share it, right? Like, what would you want to share with the non-therapist?
That physical health is really dependent on how well you take care of yourself emotionally. So if you are not engaged socially and emotionally with other people, then you're asking your body to carry a burden that it cannot carry. We're born connected, and we seek connection with others for the rest of our lives. And those connections need to be helping us to stay healthy and challenging us to grow.
Very well said. I there are family members of mine that I feel like I want to just clip that and send it to them.
Then do it.
Yeah. Gloria, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for joining me on the show today and for coming on. And
thank you for your time. It's good conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd love to have you back on the show. And yeah, we'll do it again soon sometime.
That sounds great.